What is good, YouTube? It's your girl TrvllOfficial, and I am back with another video for you guys today. I'm ready to drop some good advice, some good tips and tricks for y'all. Now, as y'all see in my recent videos from the past, well, I'm not gonna say recent, but my past videos when I did videos on DoorDash tips and tricks and also doing Uber tips and tricks, I do have a new method in how I do everything. So I want you guys to stay tuned and please keep your eyes glued to the screen as well as your ears, because I'm about to give y'all everything. We just gonna get straight to the point. If you're new to this channel, like I said, my name is TrvllOfficial, and also make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. So I would say I average between about $1,500 to about somewhere between 2 to 3 grand maybe in a week. I say this because I'm not a full-time driver. Let me just start there. There are some people who are full-time drivers, but I am not. So I, as well do YouTube, so I don't really do too much driving because I also kind of want to like not run too much up in my car. But I can't lie, I have definitely made these numbers to the point where I've even made about between 6 and 7 grand in a month from just doing this part-time. So if you want to learn more, just please keep paying attention. If you guys don't know, I am located in Chicago, so my market is a little bit different. It may differ from other markets. I will say, if you are in a smaller city, this may not work for you. I'm gonna be honest with you. So like if you're in a major city like California, New York, Atlanta, those are bigger markets where there's a larger crowd, there's a higher demand, so that definitely matters. But if you are in a small city, it may vary. It may be okay, it may not be okay. So I just want to let you know, if you are in a small city, I can't really help you, but I still want you to keep paying attention, just in case you might move. You know what I'm saying? You might end up moving to another state. You never know. The hours in which I decide to do Uber, Monday through Thursday. I was never really like an early bird person, like somebody waking up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. But if you want to be able to maximize the most during the day, I feel like you should get out there between 4 a.m. and 9 a.m. Sometimes even 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. might work for you. I've seen myself making between like 150, 160 in like 3 hours, and also like 2 something in 5 hours. So for me, that really works, especially if I'm going to get right back out there on the road. But I feel like those are the best hours during the weekday, because I notice it's a lot slower during the weekday than it is during the weekend. Now on the weekend, I would say you can on Friday get out there between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. sometimes 6, all the way up to like 9 o'clock, and then it gets right back busy again around between, I would say, the hours of 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. After 7 p.m. I notice as a trend I've been seeing that it gets really slow around 7 o'clock, 7, 8 o'clock, sometimes as early as 6:30. I've seen it get kind of like slow down a little bit in the Chicagoland area. Now me personally, I like to do a lot of downtown trips because I feel like it's a higher demand down there. Not only that, usually there's a consistent surge downtown versus like in the suburbs. So I do like to do it downtown, but sometimes it may differ. Also, I would like to say after the hours of like 8, 9 o'clock, sometimes even 10, it's still a little bit slow. Once around like 10:30, 11 o'clock p.m. all the way to 1, 2 o'clock, sometimes even 3 o'clock in the morning, it is still busy. And then sometimes on a Saturday, if you get up as early as 5, 6 a.m., you do have some people who had, they might have had a hangover, they might have accidentally slept somewhere, so they end up trying to get back home the next day. Sometimes they have to be at work early in the morning or the airport, so sometimes it does work early in the morning on Saturday. Now Sunday, I don't recommend you getting up super duper early, but I would say about 10 o'clock to the same thing about 7, 8. Sometimes a little bit after that it gets a little bit busy depending on the events. So now I'm going to go into talking about events. On Uber and Lyft, the platforms also show you that there are events that are happening in your area or nearby your area. So if I was you, I would definitely try to pay attention to the events that are happening. And I mean that because that could also help you make more profit at the end of the day by you following those events. Sometimes if you don't follow those events and say like you're in the suburbs, a lot of people start to go downtown because they know that there's an event going on, right? So instead of going downtown, sometimes it's okay to stay in a busy suburban area, because the drivers have now not only left the suburbs to go downtown to focus on that larger crowd, but now there's a higher demand in the suburbs, and even the like the little cities outside of Chicago that are literally still city bound, that are now busy. So keep that in mind too. Sometimes it's not always the safest play to go downtown. And as you start to drive and start to get out there a little bit more, you will start to pick up on how repetitive the schedule will be and how it will look, and you'll be able to determine what works best for you and what doesn't. Now, if you also are somebody who does not want to wake up early during the weekday between 4 and 9 a.m., maybe you have an overnight shift or something. I don't know, you know, it's all up to you. But if you decide that you don't want to do it between 4 and 9 a.m., then I would say also try to get out there between 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. Those are the hours where people are starting to get off work. Some people are getting out of school. And don't forget, school is back. So like now the demand is a little bit higher. Now one thing I will say in particular, summertime money and wintertime money are two completely different things. I've made a lot of money in the summertime with all the events that's going on in the summer. But I've also made a lot of money in the wintertime because it's cold. You know, we live in Chicago. Even though a lot of people do know what weather they're dealing with, some people don't want to walk. You got snow, you got rain, you got hail, you got all kinds of stuff, you know. So I definitely feel like that definitely matters. The weather actually does matter. Sometimes if it's raining, you will see a higher surge than you did when it was super sunny outside and it's the summertime. So I would definitely pay attention to the weather. When it's nasty out, nobody wants to walk, nobody wants to run. Everybody wants to sometimes either stay inside or call a trip, call a ride. I get this question a lot, like what kind of trips to take. Now I feel like it depends. If you are somebody that's doing a challenge, for example, LYFT, I'm gonna put LYFT up here. They are the #1 source when it comes to challenges right now. I will say Uber used to do really good with the challenges. They used to offer like 600, 700, 800 on top of what you were making, or 400, 500 on top of what you were making. But they took that away. I don't know if it's because people are starting to get, you know, people are starting to know more and more about how much money you can make on Uber. But I noticed that they took that away. I was doing it for like a few months, and then all of a sudden they had a different kind of a quest. With Uber, they have quests. With LYFT, they have challenges. So with LYFT, I've been doing LYFT a lot more often because they have challenges that you can do. If you do a certain amount of trips, you can make an additional $300-400 something. I haven't seen nothing over that in a long time, but they have their challenges where if you do 90, 80, 70, 60 trips, you get a certain payout. Now, for example, if you have a challenge that says if you do 90 trips, you get $300, but if you do 60 trips, you get $135, and the remaining of that $300 and $135 difference is if you do the remaining 30 trips. If you do not hit 60, you are not going to get that $135. They're not going to pay that difference. Now, if you decided, and this is what I like about LYFT, because they give you two options versus Uber. If you didn't hit the challenge overall, if you were 1 trip away, 2 trips away, they don't care, they're not giving you the money. But the way that LYFT does it, they'll have it where it's like 60 trips, 135, and the remaining 30 will be like 165, and then that's how you get 300 from 90 trips. So if you hit that first 60 mark, you're guaranteed to get that 135. But if you don't do the remaining 30, you're not going to get the remaining $165, which tops 90 trips. But you know, you can choose which one you feel like works. So what I do is always choose the highest challenge, and I always try to knock out that first one that they list underneath it. That's the good thing about LYFT that I can't too much say about Uber that I've seen. You know, it might be different for your account, it might be different for, you know, a different market, but I know here in Chicago it's not like that on my end. So when it comes to what trips to take when you are doing these challenges, LYFT has it to where you have destination filters and you also have stay within my area filters. So if you are somebody that is a new driver, I believe you only will have two filters, which means you have to be careful with when you use your filter, because you can only use your filter up to 2 hours. So if I was you and I had to knock out a certain amount of trips, I would make sure that I use the time where there's a high demand for people that's possibly taking shorter trips within this time frame, and use that filter for that. So for example, when people get out of school, when people get out of work, you know it's a higher demand. You know there's going to be a lot of people possibly asking for shorter trips to go down the street, or maybe even 2-3 miles out, you know. So that is the proper time to use a filter. Another example is late at night, where you have a lot of people that's like club hopping, bar hopping, whatever, you know, so that's another time frame where you want to use that filter. This way, not only are you making money like faster, but you're also knocking out shorter trips, which helps you complete that challenge. And then another thing is, sometimes at nighttime, a lot of the drivers start to go home, which is why they tell you, if you want to make the most money, try to do overnight trips, meaning like somewhere between 10 p.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m., even 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. is still considered overnight. So if you want to maximize the most, try to get out there at nighttime. And I'm trying to tell y'all this because I've been doing Uber for like 2 years, and I know what works for me, to the point where I'm able to do everything else that I have going on for myself, and I could, you know, maneuver around that. So that's a great thing, right? Definitely use those filters, but be careful with how you use them. You know, proper risk, you know, make sure that you're using it in the right time. Because think about it, if you use it around a shorter time frame where there's nobody outside, so for example between 10 a.m. and 12 noon, where there's people still at work, there's people still in school, you might have a few people that's getting out early, but what are the chances of that? You don't want to risk that, because when it comes nighttime, you're gonna have to keep denying all of those long trips to just get that short trip, when you could have kept your filter on, and they're gonna try to find as many short trips as possible just for you. So keep that in mind. Okay, another key tip, like I said, it all depends on if I'm doing a challenge or not. If I'm doing a challenge, I try to take shorter trips. If I'm not doing a challenge, I try to take longer trips. Kind of differs though, because sometimes like if there's a surge, then I will do shorter trips even if I'm not doing a challenge. Because if you think about it, say for example you're in an area where there's a $5 surge, right? But you do five-minute trips, that's a $5 surge. If you hurry up and knock those trips out, you're gonna be making like 40, 50 an hour, like guaranteed, depending on how long the destination is to and from. So you have to like be kind of mindful of that too. But if not, and I feel like the surge is gonna go away quick, I try to find a surge or a trip where like the surge on top of what you're getting paid for the trip really makes sense. If I'm going 5 miles, I'm not taking a trip that's like $2-3 something. If I'm going 5 miles, I'm going to try to take one that's like somewhere between $10 and up, like if I'm doing 5 miles. So I always try to double what the mileage is. So if it's a 5-mile trip, I try to get at least $10 out of it. That's something I feel like you guys should try to be mindful of. I try to average off like the least 30 an hour, the most however I could shoot. So like 50 an hour, 60 an hour, 40 an hour, whatever. I've made 70 an hour one time doing Uber and Lyft. So it's all up to you. It all depends on how much money you're trying to make. If you're one of those people that's trying to make like 400 or 300 a day, and you're off for 10 hours, try to do $30 an hour plus more. Sometimes you're going to get more anyway because of tips. So that's the next thing I'll get into. Tips. I don't do anything special to get tips. I just always keep a nice demeanor. Always greet, you know, of course. I always try to have a conversation with people, even though sometimes some people don't want to have a conversation. Sometimes their preference is even quiet, which means 9 times out of 10 either they don't want to talk or they don't want to hear music. So, and that's another thing. I have a nice playlist. Kate, you're not a shout out to you, man. I don't do anything special. Just be you, man. Be authentic. Don't be a replica of somebody else that you're not. As far as cleaning your car, just try to make sure that your car is as clean as possible, because not even just the car being clean, but smell. Nobody wants to get in your car when it smells like a pound of Black and Milds and squares, and so you know that's nasty. So make sure your car is smelling good. Make sure that your car is clean. Also, make sure that you try to get like a tiny little garbage, like a little tiny garbage. That way it's easy for somebody, like if they gotta throw up, because you're gonna have a lot of late night drunk rides. It's definitely possible. So keep something like that, and also protect your seats. So if you can, make sure you get a nice little seat cover, whether it's plastic or I don't know, any other kind of seat cover, but just make sure that you do that, because that's something that I wish I would have done when I first started, but I was so eager to just start. All the plastic backboard and stuff like that, it all depends on you. You know, if you want somebody to have that, but like it's not going to necessarily protect you from somebody being violent with you. So just as far as that, just make sure that you're staying safe, you watch your surroundings. And I always tell people, do not put your car in park. Don't do it. Me being from Chicago, I'm already very aware of my surroundings. I already try to pay attention as much as I can, but the reason why I say this is because if there becomes an instant where you have to hurry up and pull off, that can be really bad for you. I always tell people just to make sure that don't put your car in park. Roll your windows up, make sure your doors are locked, whether somebody's in it or not. Lock your door. When you're sitting there waiting on a customer, do not sit there and be on your phone. Look around, because sometimes it's a setup. Not only can it be a setup, but sometimes your passenger doesn't even know that you guys are about to get robbed.
Gotcha, bitch.
So if you can, please make sure that you lock your doors. Like, that is so important. I tell everybody the same thing. I cannot stress that enough. Also, if you are somebody that is very aware of the city that you're in, like mine, you know what I mean by what I'm about to tell you. Watch the neighborhoods that you are going into. Me, I don't go in certain neighborhoods past 7, 8 o'clock. Not even gonna lie to you. Even if it's a neighborhood I used to stay in, I'm not doing it. Only because I'd rather play it safe than sorry. I'd rather take airport trips to and from, and you know, because those are people that have a destination to go to. Like, I hate to say it, but it's the truth. Downtown trips, knock them little trips out, man. Make sure y'all do that. Events, pay attention to it. And then last but not least, airport trips. Airport trips I have not really been taking too much, only like early in the daytime at a certain airport. If you stay in Chicago, do not do O'Hare, because I promise you, you're gonna be not only sitting in a parking lot full of 200 to 300 cars most, but also the traffic to go to and from is like an hour and 15 minutes. Now, it used to be like the most 45 minutes to an hour, but now it's like an hour, hour and a half, and it's because they're doing some kind of construction project that's supposed to be going on for like the next 2 to 3 years. So keep that in mind. If you have to do an airport trip, try to do Midway. Even though the demand is lower there, you'll still get a trip. And sometimes Midway has traffic too, especially during rush hour. So if you are doing a Midway trip, just be mindful of the hours that you try to go out there. Usually times like 7, 8 o'clock really works. I find that like to be very key, like especially during the weekday or even during the weekend. Midway trips are very essential to make sure that you're, you know, getting that profit in. And if you want to hit your goal faster than what you have been, and you know, it's probably like a slow day, try to get in like 2 to 3 long trips just to start you off. Please make sure that you also have an iPass. That is something that I did not do. Yes, they do reimburse you, but you'll also have to dealing with the state and them sending you a fine for forgetting to pay your toll because you didn't have an iPass. So if you do stay in a state where you have like the Easy Way pass or the iPass, just be mindful of that. Make sure that you get one of those. The money that you're getting from Uber, try to put like $30, $40 towards that iPass a month, maybe even more than that, depending on how often you drive. But definitely do that because you don't want to have to deal with the state. But yeah, man, so that's all the tips and tricks that I can give you guys. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know below. Not only that, if you want to start today, please click the link below. It's a referral program, so I can get money and you can get money. So, you know, we helping each other out. So please go ahead and click that link if you want to start today. Alright, y'all, it's been real. Thank you for watching. Like I said, my name is TrvllOfficial, and I appreciate y'all for watching my video.